Hey everyone, I'm George Perkins. I'm one of the solution engineers at Drata based out of London. And today I'm going to show you an example of using the Drata public API to create and manage assets. So for various frameworks, you need to keep track of your assets within your business. Now, Drata supports this by providing you an asset inventory. You can track your assets here, what type of asset they are, serial numbers, who owns it within the business, description of that asset, amongst various other things. Now, in order to aid you for your audit preparation, we automatically start to build up this inventory for you. So Drata connects into various systems, things like your identity provider, your infrastructure, so we can start to automatically import those assets into our asset register. So you can see an example here with a user from Okta. We know who users are, we're connected into Okta, so we automatically import that into our asset inventory. Same thing with things like AWS, when we can pull in things like databases, storage, containers, compute resources, again, into that asset register for you to keep track of. Now, what about in a scenario where you have assets Strata doesn't know about? These still need to be tracked, but they might not be pulled in automatically. Now, using the Drata GUI in the admin console, you can go ahead and add an asset manually. Of course, that can be very cumbersome. You potentially have a vast number of assets to add. I've got an example here with a Cisco Meraki deployment. Now, in my case, I only have 4 devices. I have a firewall, a switch, a couple of access points, but the typical Cisco Meraki deployment is a lot larger than this. You might have hundreds of access points across an office potentially that you need to go ahead and get into Drata to track. So what I've gone ahead and done here using a no-code automation platform, in this case, is Okta Workflows, but maybe you prefer Zapier, Make, Tines. But regardless of the automation platform you choose to do this with, or potentially use the script, what I'm going ahead and doing is I'm using the Meraki API in this case to get a list of my network devices. You can see an example of the body that Meraki is going to respond with here. That includes things like the name of the AP, the serial number, the model. And I'm then going ahead and using Drata's public API. And you can find our public API documentation at developers.drata.com. And I'm using our API here to go ahead and add that asset into Drata so I can then track it moving forward. So to show you this workflow, we're going ahead, calling the Meraki API. We're going to get a response of all the devices within my network. And then going ahead and for each device, calling a flow which pushes them into Drata using our public API. So let's go ahead and run this flow. You can see the response from Meraki with the various access points, switches, firewalls that I have within my network. And then you can see in the second flow, I'm successfully calling the public API to add that asset into Drata. Let's go ahead and look in the admin console now, sort by hardware. And you can now see my switch, firewall, and both access points in Drata for me to keep track of. So that's a super simple example of importing assets into Drata using our public API. Thank you for listening.